And he's like, well, you know what? In a couple of weeks, translucent could come by. And he looks up at the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh, oh. Hey, Litternet. It's Paul. It's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here talking about The Boys, the Amazon superhero series. We're going to talk about Season 1, because it has been picked up for Season 2 already.
That was
good. Season 1, Episodes 1 and 2, Name of the Game, and Cherry. We are doing this, at least in part, because some of you out there asked us to do this. We're committed to our Dork Lord fandom.
Yes, we are.
You had already watched the whole series at the time when I was like, hey, so I was the late to the party. The reason that I
was late to the party.
So I've watched the first 2 episodes. Now, I'll predict everything that happens. I've seen clips of other stuff, so I'm aware generally of some of these beats. So theory crafting and not so much with these reviews. But,
at least in the first season.
True, good point. We can theory craft about what happened in Season 2. Good point, sir. Before we do a little recap, just get your thoughts generally, sir. I mean, you've seen the whole series, but try to confine it to 1 and 2. But generally speaking, what are your thoughts on The Boys?
I like the series. The thing that I find interesting about it is that you could say it's a criticism. It's hard to pin it down as a parody. Not hard, but it's not like The Tick, for instance.
Sure. Where
it's certainly more lighthearted, even as it has some violent aspects to it. But this, has a much. I would say it's a lot more like Watchmen in the general tone of the characters and how it feels about the superheroes, I would say.
It's almost, nihilistic in a way of just like nothing matters.
Yeah.
It's all BS. Now, this was based on a comic book series. I have not read that comic book series. It came out in 2012, I think. But it does feel like a reaction to, let's say, DC and Marvel series. Like, here's a superhero team, which is a satire of Justice League. It's the Seven. And we have the Seven, and then we have the Boys. So you've got a situation where the heroes, the Seven, are not so heroic. They have a superficially, we do good things for people, for publicity. But they've got this huge corporate backing, and anytime they screw somebody over, there's a ton of collateral damage. They've got this army of lawyers that come in and give people checks and shut everybody up, and you find out that they're really not good people at all. And so you have these unpowered, non-soups that are trying for revenge, I guess at this point is what I'm getting out of it. But anyway, they are trying to hold the Seven accountable. And so, it's just an interesting, reversal on what you think of as the classic comic book superhero team-up thing. I like it a lot. I think it's really smart. It is very violent.
Yes, it is.
When you see the opening credits, you get all the little tags. It's like violence, graphic language, nudity. You're like, okay. They're all there. Now I've heard that it's actually fairly tame compared to the actual comic. But it does. It's not PG.
Nope, definitely isn't. Nope.
You would not see this in a Marvel movie, I would say. I mean, it's Deadpool-ish, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess. Except, even that comic, and I haven't read the comic of Deadpool either. But even the character, in the movie, has a more positive opinion of superheroes than.
Oh yeah, good point. In terms of like actual, the tone of it, the tone of Deadpool is much more optimistic. I think.
Well, it just buys into the idea that somebody could have that sort of power and do good.
Yeah.
Here,
there's no such illusions. Well, maybe there are. I guess Starlight is basically our portals into the Seven and the Boys, who are our 2 competing forces. Our portals in are Annie and Huey. So Huey is a new recruit, essentially, to the Boys. And we'll talk about why in a second. And Annie is a new. She's always. I love the fact that she's been in superhero pageants.
Yes,
Like
yes,
that,
yes.
like
yes.
the pageant circuit in this world is for superheroes, or at least partially.
Yeah,
So
partially,
she's been. Her mom is a show mom.
Yes.
And so she's been grooming her to be in the Seven, and she finally auditions, and she has to take like a urine test, and she has to like do all these little, oh, here's your interview, and here's your and she's got to wear the right outfit, and she's in. And so she's very much the naive, like, golly gee, I want to do good things. I'm from Iowa, and everything's great and peachy keen. And she quickly finds out everything's not peachy keen, but it's do you want to be in this group? Do you not want to be in this group? And what part of your ethics and morals do you want to keep, and which ones do you want to get rid of? And so that's we're seeing both of these organizations through these people that are new to it. So they're essentially us in a way.
Yeah, and I guess like one thing you were when we were talking between us about it earlier, you were tagging, or at least some people, I feel like, since Marvel's the most successful one at it, and really the one who's really transformed what pop culture is like in a way that hasn't been before. I mean, not in the way that Superman did, or even the first Spider-Man that came out, or even the X-Men didn't have the sort of pull that Marvel is now.
Sure.
The reason I feel like that one of the things you could actually say is, well, that Marvel did do a little more to sort of make their characters not have secret identities. So they could be public figures in a way that you didn't see previous superheroes being. But one thing that ends up being, since you have this company that's sort of marketing, Vought, that's marketing the superheroes in a way, is that it even makes it more firm that it's talking about celebrity in a way that everybody understands. Like everybody's used to the idea of sports heroes who are celebrities, and having merchandising deals and things like that, and actors and singers.
Yeah,
and
the fact that
everything
they're
like
doing movies. You see an advertisement for Translucent's movie, and at the same time, he's also like, "Oh, we got a problem with a terrorist. Go get him."
Yeah.
And so, they're really blurring the lines there. I really like that. But
So I think that sort of firms of sort of like everybody's used to the idea. I think the idea of a public face of a star or a celebrity, and then behind the scenes they can be a dick.
What's interesting? You mentioned the secret identity. I mean, it's almost too subtle. Maybe for me, it's too subtle. I feel like they're making fun of secret identities, but in such a almost subtle way that I'm like,
in this
are
show?
you making fun of it? Yeah.
What way?
So there was first in the first episode, I had this moment of like, huh, that's interesting. And then the second episode, I was like, oh, I think they're making fun of this, and it involves the character of Starlight.
Right.
So first of all, this isn't a deal breaker, but it was like it's a very important scene actually where she meets up with Huey in the park.
Yes.
Okay. And she's in her regular clothes.
Yep.
And she sits there in the park and she talks to Huey, but she's just like days before become a world sensation. Like she came out and was like, "Hi, I'm the new member of the Seven." And they interview her and like, "Oh, look at all these people. They're all here for you." Blah 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 blah. And then she's just sitting by herself in the park.
Right.
At the moment, I thought it's believable, but it's also a little weird. Like you wouldn't think somebody would be like, "Oh, it's a member of the Seven." Blah 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 blah. But or that Huey might recognize her even because he's a big follower of the Seven.
I
mean,
guess,
he
but
had some issues happen, obviously.
like if you look at his life at that time, he wasn't
probably
following
wasn't
it that
watching
closely.
TV.
Yeah, and I think too that someone who's new, is not going to be as well recognized.
Good point. I was thinking to myself, that's a little odd that maybe she wouldn't be recognized, but so be it. But in the second episode, she gets in a lot of trouble because she beats up these potential sexual assault guys. And the whole point is like, you did it in your street clothes, and now they know you. And I'm like, what? Like, she doesn't have a mask.
Right.
She's just wearing a white outfit versus
true.
jeans.
Right.
But I think they're making fun of the fact that when they're wearing their street clothes, nobody knows who they are. I don't know. I'm getting that. If you out there, you got that idea. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but it seems funny to me because I'm like on the surface, you're like, she's not wearing a mask. Everybody knows who she is anyway. Like in this day and age, you would easily figure
That
out
could
who
be.
that
I
person
wonder though
is.
if what they're actually.
She's lifting cars in Iowa.
I think I wonder what they're actually sort of reacting to, though, is sort of like, okay, when you do that, you do it in a certain way. Yeah, you're off-brand, and also do it in a certain way that we can promote, and then we can shape the story as opposed to you just doing crap like that, and then you didn't get the person's name or whatever, just let them run off, which they were able to fix, but still, that's kind of how I saw it. Even though, and two also, it may just be another thing of celebrity, where it's like, when you're doing that, you're dressed up and you're doing it, and when you're not, you're off. Like, oh, okay, I'm a star in a TV show, but I see you in a restaurant, like you might want to just feel like, oh, should we bother them? Or, okay, we'll talk to them. But just having a separation between the two is just probably the correct way to do it.
I would just say she
Don't
obviously
walk around
doesn't have a secret identity. And
right,
so it was at these little hints that maybe she does. I was a little confused, I guess. So. But I think it's being, if I'm right, it would be being played for subtle laughs that you're just like, they're just kind of making like, the secret identity thing that no one's ever actually secret. Oh, who's Adam West? I can't tell because he's got this half mask on.
Right. Superman with some glasses on.
Right,
Who's that?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
And there is some excellent comedy in this. I mean, it's not a comedy. It's not played for laughs. It is not The Tick.
Right.
But there are some funny moments. And one in particular in these first two episodes, it's painful, but it's pretty damn funny, is A-Train going to the hospital.
Oh.
And so he goes to this kid who's obviously sick with cancer, and the kid wanted translucent, but translucent is currently being kidnapped. Yeah. And so he guy gets A-Train and saying, like, oh, I asked for translucent. It's my one thing I asked for. And, A-Train's like, you got the A-Train. And so there's that thing because their TV's on and it's got the little emojis.
Yeah.
And as the scene goes on and it gets worse and worse, the emojis change. So like it's like people are like registering their like what's happening. So it's like it changes to like shock and then like anger, and the little bubbles are coming up. And the thing was like, hey, I'm fast. I can outrun anything. Can I outrun cancer? Or can you teach me to outrun cancer? He's like, And he's like, well, you know what? In a couple of weeks, translucent could come by. And he looks up at the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh. Anyway, it was funny. I mean, it's painful and ouch, but I laughed. I thought that. I mean, it's obviously played for laughs. A-Train is not good as a public figure.
No, he's not. Well, not when someone just wants to see somebody, which is a time-honored trope.
Yeah, the frosted A-Trains. He's branded like crazy. We see Translucent is on Jimmy Fallon at one point, so they're kind of throwing in the pop culture thing. A little recap here. Huey he works at a electronics store, and he's got a girlfriend. We see her for about a minute, and then they're standing on a street corner, and A-Train runs through her, essentially at his flash, high velocity. It's a very gruesome scene. Huey's left holding her hands, and so they try to, shut him up. There's a lawyer shows up. Here, take the check. Huey is outraged. He imagines himself, striking back, but it's like his own fantasy life because inside, he's not a vengeful person. And his dad, played by Simon Pegg, even gives him that little soul-crushing talk of like, that's not you, take the check, we're just not, that's not who we are. So obviously that's your character arc as Huey's going to perhaps become that person. We do see him obviously get revenge at the end of the second episode here where he blows up Translucent.
Well, not technically revenge.
What do you think? What do you think his motivation is?
No, his motivation is to get back at superheroes, certainly. But I mean, that's not the specific superhero that did it wrong.
Good point. I mean, he's upset with A-Train, but I think he associates Translucent with
he probably
A-Train
does.
and his ilk.
Yeah, I'd say that he does. But
and so you can see, and you do get the danger. I'll say that. The sense of like these guys are really taking a chance.
Yeah.
Even in this short thing we've seen so far, that messing with the Seven and just. If you have no powers, like they could just crush you, without a thought.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that they hide the ball on Homelander's morality until the end of episode 1.
Yeah, I guess I like that. I guess the way what they're really doing is hiding. They hid the Butcher's antipathy or anger really at Homelander. Because you'll learn that more about it as the series progresses. So he said, "Oh yeah, everybody's terrible." When they went to the bar, everybody's terrible, except for Homelander.
Yeah. Right. They go to a bar, which is like where Soups can basically do all kinds of debauchery without fear of being outed or whatever. He's like, "Oh, Homelander's the one teetotaler, good guy in the group,
yeah,
whatever."
But really, that's the one that he's the most angry at. But he doesn't, he's not really telling him about that story in order to get him involved, because he does lie about being involved with the FBI, and he's not. Or did you say CIA?
He says FBI. He's got a badge.
Yeah.
He's like, "Shrimp."
Yeah.
So we said this idea that maybe Homelander could theoretically be the exception to the rule.
Which is interesting too, because in the comics, the person who assaults Starlight is really Homelander.
Right. In this version, in the TV version, it's the Deep, who sexually assaults her.
Clearly, Namor.
Clearly, Aquaman. He's DC. See,
he has dark hair.
But he's DC.
What? Aquaman is DC.
Right. Aquaman is DC.
Well,
and this is a DC ripoff, damn it. Don't you make fun of Namor! All right, it just so happens I grew up watching Namor as a little kid, and I've always hated Aquaman, and I've always thought he was terrible. And then I watched Justice League, and he was just a waste of space in that thing. And they actually do make kind of a meta joke about that in this, where she's like, "Oh, what are you gonna do? Send a grouper after me?
Yeah.
You're the joke of the team." And so it's like, we have to do like water-based things. There's always has to be a river near you or a fjord or whatever. Anyway, so I think they're making fun of Aquaman. Don't you dare mess with me. Anyway.
I guess certainly
he does.
Homelander is Superman, and what's it? They have the Wonder Woman counterpart.
Queen Maeve would be Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And then the Deep would be Aquaman.
Right.
Black Noir would probably be Batman, I think.
I guess, even though, in terms of the comics,
right?
Who knows? That's,
Yeah. So it's, and then, things like A-Train would be the Flash, perhaps.
Yeah, probably.
Starlight, I'm not sure what her analog is, but.
Yeah, me neither.
So.
Tell us in the comments.
Starfire? I don't know. So at the end here, we've got a situation where the mayor of Baltimore has come asking Vought for, to get a superhero of their own. And so the price is $300 million a year, I think is what it was. And they're going to get the Nubian Prince from Detroit. Apparently Detroit hasn't been paying up enough money. I don't know, but he's going to move over to Baltimore. And so he's like, "Nah, that's fine, but I'd like it for $200 million, or I'm going to tell about Compound V. You want me to tell this secret out?" He doesn't really go into detail, but obviously it's something that Vought wants to keep quiet.
Right.
So Stillwell, who is our face of Vought, is eventually willing to come down. Like, fine, 200 mil. We appreciate your discretion on the Compound V. But seemingly, kind of against Stillwell's wishes, Homelander acts independently and goes, "I'll take care of this problem." Yep. And so there's a really ouch scene at the very end of episode 1 where the mayor's private plane is flying. He's got his kid. His kid looks out the window. "Look, it's Homelander." He sees the eyes light up, realizes what's about to happen. The mayor does, and it's too late to do anything. And
of course.
Homelander, uses his infravision very effectively. We see him use it earlier in the episode too on the guy's gun. But anyway, he takes out the plane, kills the mayor. What we then learn is the Deep was assigned to go check out the wreckage, then tells Stillwell, "Hey, by the way, there's some I whipped apart laser beams that took this plane out. And so then Stillwell talks to Homelander, scolds him, basically. Homelander then talks to the Deep,
Yes.
threatens the crap out of him.
Yeah.
You can tell their relationship right away. Like, the Deep's like, ha 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 ha, ha, please don't kill me. And so, but yeah, so the Homelander is horrible. And we just, they hid the ball a little bit on it. And then they're like, yeah, no. None of these heroes are good. Translucent is a terrible person up to the moment he gets blown up. They figure out the way to blow him up is to put the bomb up his butt.
Yes.
Like his out. It kind of wasn't. It's not exactly the same, obviously, but Luke Cage. He has like skin, but if they get under his skin, he's a little more vulnerable.
Right.
So it's kind of like he has this outer layer that's protective. It was also very conductive, which is what Huey just remembered hearing him talk on the Fallon show, and so they use that to their advantage to keep him imprisoned. Huey shows his abilities. He has that bit where he's like, "I could be your tech guy. I could be the guy's like, go left." I did also like the comedy of there's a little bit of a Matrix thing that goes on there where Huey first calls Butcher like, "You look like a porn version of the Matrix."
Yes.
And then later, Huey's kind of gonna back out of the whole plant a bug at the Seven's place. He's like, "I don't think I want to do this." Like, "Look, it's just like in the Matrix when you can just take the red pill and go be a jerk, or you can take." He's like, "Wait, which pill do you want me to take?" And they get confused on what color of the pill he's supposed to be taking here. So anyway, I thought that was pretty funny. There's some good writing generally in the show. I noticed it was just an odd thing that when Simon Pegg is trying to talk Huey out of refusing the big check.
Yes.
He's like, "Here, just come sit on the couch with me. Look, Remington Steele is on." And it was just such a weird, like, why Remington Steele? I don't know. It's just, I mean, that show is obviously very old. It's from the 80s.
Yeah, it is.
This is not a show that's like back in time. This is a show that's pretty current day in a slightly different world, much different world, but whatever. But it's New York, modern day.
Yeah.
Just odd that, I don't know. I don't know what that means. It was just funny. It was like, let's watch Remington Steele.
One of the other strange things that he did was he kept talking about I forget the name of the musical artist he likes, but he mentioned it a couple of times. I presumably to tell how nerdy or how cool he is, I guess.
But they sit around watching Remington Steele.
Yeah, so I don't know if it had particular significance in the comics. Maybe those things. That's a good, it was odd.
Yeah, I think
it's Mike making some sort of reference to people that are the age of his father, basically. Who is us.
Good point.
So,
what are you talking about? I'm in my 20s.
That's why it seems
odd. I've never heard of Remington Steele. I had to look it up. I had no frame of reference. Who is this Pierce Brosnan? I don't even know who that is. Two big moments for Huey. One of them was his meeting in the park with Annie / Starlight, where basically they both having a terrible time. He's like, "You have a work problem or a life problem?" She's like, "I got a work problem." "I got a life problem," because his girlfriend has died horribly in his arms. Her problem is she was just sexually assaulted, but has done nothing about it in a way, and has kind of accepted it in order to stay with the Seven. And so he basically tells her, we're not, just because something, you didn't live up to your expectations in a particular moment doesn't mean that's who you are. That you can still aspire to something better. And she kind of takes that advice and then kind of stands up to the Deep later.
Yeah.
She's like, "Look, I'm not taking your crap anymore."
Yeah.
And so, but that's an important meeting, obviously, between the two. That's going to have ramifications for later. And also the moment I think is pretty important when Huey rips up the check. Butcher drops him off.
Right.
This is right before Translucent attacks.
Right.
But it seems like everything's like, okay, you did your thing and we're great. And it's one of the last little things where he goes, "Oh, by the way, have you ever seen like an idiot tear up a $45,000 check?" And he tears it up, and the butcher's like, "Well, you're a good person, Huey," or something like that. But I think it's that act that makes Billy Butcher realize, like, this guy actually as opposed to just using him as a dupe because like he was convenient. Oh, here's a guy that could get entrance to Stark Tower essentially. So let's use him. I think in that moment it's like, oh wait, this guy actually does have really strong.
I mean, probably a number of different elements. The other one is his usefulness when they had translucent captured and stuff like that. And so yeah, it did definitely seem like they're stressing the Butcher's narcissism and feeling like he's on his own quest, but so it was good that it wasn't automatic. What's the other guy that he got help from?
Frenchie.
Yeah, Frenchie. Yeah, so and it's interesting. It's not like I can think of another parallel for this group of vigilantes.
You're talking about in other shows,
or even other comics or whatever. So,
and so you've got Butcher, Frenchie, Huey. They booby trap Translucent. Translucent is escaping because Homelander has decided to take it on his own terms to try to find Translucent. Translucent's been missing for a while, but they haven't been able to track him down exactly. So Homelander's like, I'll take care of it. And so you have Butcher and Frenchie go out to distract Homelander. While he's doing that, Translucent escapes, and there's a moment where basically Huey is forced again to kind of like, how far are you willing to go with this?
Right.
And Translucent's like, you're not that guy, just go back and enjoy your life.
Right.
Huey sees the little "Don't get your hands dirty" sign, which, I think speaks to him in this moment. So like, I'm going to get my hands dirty. And and so one of the seven has been killed off already.
Yeah.
It's 2 episodes in.
Right.
Another plot point that's happened is we see that Stillwell / Vought wants to put the superheroes into the army. And so there's this big party, and she's talking with like one of the Senate guys who's on appropriations. And he's like, I'm not gonna give up our sovereignty essentially to superheroes to do with what they will. She arranges for this compromising photo to be taken where she's got a shape changer named Doppelganger, pretends to be a prostitute, turns into a big guy, and his Kentucky voters aren't gonna like that apparently. So he's like, fine, I'll play ball. We get the idea that there's superheroes are going to be allowed to work with the military essentially. So we do see that there are other superheroes. It's not just 7 superheroes. They mention at one point there's over 200 plus heroes in the Vought family or something like that. So we know that Doppelganger, for instance, is one of these others. I guess never tried to be in the 7. I don't know, the 7. Lamplighter was in the 7 but retired. I'm not sure how you retire necessarily, but he did, and so that's why there was a space open for Starlight to show up. It's interesting that Lamplighter and on Starlight, did you have to be is the name
the
part
light
of it? Like,
person?
you have to be a light person? We need a light guy. We don't need the strong guy or the fast guy. Swimming guy. Those are generally the points that I had.
Sure.
For this, it's a well done series. I'm appreciating it so far. Look forward to episodes 3 and 4, where we see now that Translucent is dead, what the ramifications are. The boys are really running a very dangerous game here. I feel like I know there's deaths coming, but not hard to see deaths on the horizon.
You're not ready to classify anybody
well, because I've seen some clips.
Matt.
I could. It would be slightly cheating to be Anyway, so enjoy. We'll be back with episodes 3 and 4. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.